Please welcome our mayor, Buddy Dyer.
Good afternoon and welcome to the June 2nd, 2014 meeting of the Orlando City Council. We're going to begin today's proceeding with an invocation offered by Pastor Paul Vallo from the Christ Church of Orlando, located at 2200 South Orange Avenue in the Soto neighborhood in District 4. Pastor Vallo has served as a founding and lead pastor for the past 17 years. The church serves our community through its We Care program by providing volunteers to serve with existing local community service organizations such as the Community Food and Outreach Center, Fresh Start Ministries, Ronald McDonald House, and the Salvation Army downtown. In addition, the church hosts many community-wide events throughout the year, including National Night Out, Goes to Church Block Party, and a Teacher-Student Appreciation event. The invocation will be followed by the pledge led today by District 6 Commissioner Sam Ings. Would you please join me in standing?
Let's pray together, if you would. Our wise and great Heavenly Father, we declare that you are God and that it is by your hand that all things were made and that you sit in wisdom above this earth. Our founding fathers declared that it was by your divine providence that our nation was founded and that it would be by your direction and blessing that we would prosper into the destiny that you had for us. Thank you for leading us and directing us, protecting us and blessing us. We ask you today to come to this place and hear our prayer. We ask you that you would guide and guard our president, that you would grant him wisdom and understanding as he leads our nation. We ask you that you would give unity to our national leaders and that our state leaders would have understanding and insight that only comes from you. And now we ask you to give wisdom, great compassion, and humility to the leaders that are in this room today. And as they discuss and make decisions concerning the future of our great city, we ask you that what they do and what they decide would please you, because we know we are our best when we please you. So I pray for the agenda that is before them today, and we ask you that you would give an assurance of what pleases you and that it would work for the benefit of those who live in this community, who work around our beautiful city. We ask that everything glorifies you. In your most precious name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Let's call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll and make a determination of a quorum, please?
Commissioner Gray?
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz? Commissioner Stewart?
Here.
Commissioner Sheehan?
Here.
Commissioner Hill?
Present.
Commissioner Ings?
Here.
Mayor Dyer?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Commissioner Ortiz, are you there? Was he supposed to be, Elena?
Yes. He's supposed to be.
Okay. Let's take up for consideration the meeting minutes from the agenda review
Second.
and city council meeting minutes from May 12th, 2014, and the city council meeting minutes from May 27th, 2014. All right, motion by Commissioner Ings, second by Commissioner Sheehan. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Was that you come on, Commissioner Ortiz?
Let's have some fun with him.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have only approved the minutes from the last couple of meetings. So we are just starting on the presentations.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. First up, Alan Johnson.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Commissioners, and a warm welcome to Commissioner Hill and to audience members. It's my pleasure today to ask you to think for a second and close your eyes to 20 years ago when we specifically were hosting the 1994 World Cup games. The eyes of the world were fixed upon Orlando, and Orlando was chosen as one of the 9 cities to host the World Cup, the world's largest sporting event at the Florida Citrus Bowl. It also marked the first time that the United States played host to this global event. Through hard work, volunteerism, perseverance, as well as heat and humidity, Orlando delivered a knockout event that remains a crowning achievement for our community. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Joni Sherm, who served as Orlando Bid and Host Committee, to give her brief remarks. Joni?
Thank you, Alan. It is with a backdrop of memories of Orlando filled with colorful soccer players and colorful fans at our Orlando Citrus Bowl, and also people from all over the world, from different cultures, singing and dancing with the locals in the streets of Orlando. And it is with that backdrop, I'm glad to I'm honored to speak on behalf of the over 4,000 volunteers who made Orlando shine. For just a moment, I want us to remember that this celebration is not just about a cool event that happened here some 20 years ago. Our shared World Cup effort is proof that the community that we live in can do anything we dream of. Against all odds, with a lot of naysayers and a lot of people we had to bring on board, our community, made it happen. And it was because we had a great heart and great will and a lot of stamina. So I know the many things you work on are possible if you just approach them like that. For the World Cup, thousands of the region's citizens and all the relevant city and county governments ensured Orlando put our best foot forward. When we thought about how to commemorate this 20th anniversary, we really wanted it to feel like a community hug. And we felt, this was about the world coming to Orlando and having a great time with us, the locals, and we achieved that. So we knew there were great memories out there, and so we have set up what you will see is a website where people can share their memories, and we really invite everyone to do that. There are many thanks to go around with the City of Orlando, and I can't name them all, but some of them, 3 mayors, Bill Frederick and Glenda Hood and their respective councils, and Buddy Dyer when he was a state senator, did significant things and had important roles to make us have a successful World Cup. City employees from virtually every department participated in multiple ways: planning, transportation, permitting, neighborhood services, and more. Without the support of the City of Orlando, along with Orange County, in ensuring that we had a magnificent stadium ready to host the event, it never would have happened. City venues staffs, back then Joanne Grant, Bill Becker, Greg Thompson, to name a few, in concert with World Cup USA's venue director, Farouk Qureshi, and his legion of people working at the stadium, and the Florida Citrus Sports Association, many of them volunteers, and the then fledgling Orlando Area Sports Commission, now the Central Florida Sports Commission staff, and the World Cup Committee, which included many people that are here today. Would everybody stand up here today that worked on the host committee? There's a few diehards that still want to show up. I want to add that Elizabeth and Roger Kurz, Elizabeth worked for the city back then, Roger worked for Disney, were huge in the effort from the beginning to the end. They now live in Tampa and drove all the way over here. Jeff Patterson went to Italy when we sent a contingency to Italy. Malik Ali had a huge role in assuring that we had a great program, and I'll touch on that in a minute. And Charlie Williams, he was at the World Cup early stages and then the Sports Commission and a lot of things. So anyway, I thank all of them. At the time, things that were going on, the Orlando OPD made these hats and handed them out, and they became famous around the world, really, as a trading hat. And Chief Tom Hurlbert, who couldn't be here today but really wanted to, he's traveling, ensured everyone had a safe and fun time. And security was no small job. We hosted princes from the Netherlands, heads of states from all over the world, and many very enthusiastic soccer fans. Success was an unprecedented coordination because we had not only our local security forces, but state, federal, and even international working to make sure we all were safe, and we were. Orlando International Airport welcomed more charter flights at one time than it ever has before or since. Orlando's downtown district covered the streets with banners and welcoming environment. For the World Cup, the city, with the host committee, with Malik Ali and Roseanne Harrington, created a unique opportunity where local minority vendors in the Paramore district easily sold their wares. And also there were free tickets provided to Paramore kids who wanted to attend the games. Our transit system links painted buses and the images of visiting countries and transported thousands of fans to the games and elsewhere where hoteliers, many of them, and attractions welcomed our visitors in a wonderful way. In fact, John Bisignano, who is now the Sports Commission head, was with Disney at that time and really helped make everything go well during the bid and the hosting. At Orlando City Hall, as you know, with a dome adorned with a giant soccer ball paid for by the Adidas company, one of the sponsor for the ball at that time, the 9th floor hosted government liaisons from the 5 countries along with a major security post. And of course, Orlando residents shared the 3 weeks of fun at the bowl and at restaurants and pubs and parties in the streets and just watching the whole colorful thing on TV locally. Legacy Soccer Foundation came out of that. It's now part of the Central Florida Foundation, looking for good causes related to soccer and people that want to take advantage of that wonderful sport. And so from all our volunteers here today and throughout Central Florida, I'd like to say a giant thank you to the City of Orlando for all that you did, and look forward to another opportunity that someday we can all take on together. So thank you very much. I want to tell you that one of our things about our website is that we encourage people to post either photos and videos with their memories. And we also have kind of progressively gone out and asked for some videos. So I want to play one for you. If I can do this. Thank you.
We traveled to Orlando for the World Cup game. To host the games, our community came together like never before, and our efforts paid off. It's estimated the World Cup had a more than $208 million economic impact on our community, which at the time was the largest single sporting event ever hosted by our community. Our hosting of the World Cup helped Orlando gain its reputation as an international city, and it paved the way for us to host other world-class events, like the NBA All-Star Game and the NCAA basketball tournament. While I was a state senator, I was proud to support the World Cup by helping with state appropriation for security during the event. The security technology during the World Cup allowed us to zoom in on individuals' faces in the Citrus Bowl Stadium, which in 1994 was considered cutting edge and was way ahead of its time. Soon, we'll have a reconstructed Citrus Bowl Stadium so our community can continue to host events and to bid on new ones. And when it's complete, the Citrus Bowl will be a venue fit for hosting an event just like the World Cup. And the soccer spirit in Orlando lives on, as we'll be able to cheer on our very own Major League Soccer team, the Orlando City Lions. My gratitude is extended to the 1994 host committee who helped make Orlando's World Cup dream a reality. And I thank the committee who has launched this virtual reunion so that people from around the world can share their favorite memories. I look forward to visiting the site often and hearing about your favorite 1994 Orlando World Cup memory. Thank you, Joni, and I have a proclamation from the City of Orlando. Whereas 20 years ago this summer, Central Florida and the Florida Citrus Bowl were chosen as one of 9 venue cities to host the World Cup, and whereas the bid effort to host the 94 World Cup effort started in 1988 and continued until March 1992, with Orlando starting the process as one of 26 cities bidding to host, and whereas Orlando was chosen as the only venue city in the Southeast, beating out Miami, Tampa, Atlanta, and Charlotte to host 5 matches at the Citrus Bowl from June 19th to July 4th, 1994. And whereas more than $208 million in economic impact flowed to our region before and during the World Cup matches, and whereas more than 300,000 spectators attended the 5 matches at the Citrus Bowl with spirited play by teams from the Netherlands, Ireland, Belgium, Morocco, and Mexico. And whereas over 4,000 volunteers signed on to ensure we put our best foot forward and also learned about the excitement of soccer as well as other cultures and nations. And whereas during the course of the World Cup in Orlando, celebrations at Church Street Station, our popular downtown venue, ran out of beer, putting out our international guests at risk of dehydration, a phenomenon we hope will never happen again. And whereas the Atlanta Journal-Constitution proclaimed Orlando the best World Cup venue, and the Wall Street Journal declared the UN should send observers to see how it's done. Now, therefore, I, Buddy Dyer, Mayor of the City of Orlando, hereby do proclaim June 19th through July 4th, 2014, as World Cup Orlando 20th Anniversary Celebration in the City of Orlando.
How's your boy doing? A bunch of good-looking guys. Put on the back of the guy next to you. Don't forget the statue we have out front, too. I'll come in with the statue. Oh, that's right.
Okay, let's move into the mayor's update. I'd first like to recognize and acknowledge one of our superstar legislators. Senator Darren Soto has joined us. Senator. Senator, we're doing a legislative update, but we're not doing it till the end of the meeting. Do you have anything? I don't know if you're staying for the whole meeting, or would you like to take a minute and just give us your perspective?
Well, Mayor, council members, I'd like to start with a little bit of friendly competition between state senators, and that Kathy reminded me that you got $250,000 20 years ago, and we brought back $30 million this year for the stadium. So
That's inflation, but I'm very happy that you did that.
there are several wonderful projects that came out. As you know, we got the additional building for UCF for the partnership that'll help keep simulation here. We have a new bike path. I'm sure you all are familiar with it. You'll be able to go all the way to Daytona and down to St. Pete. But one project that I think you all are already seeing that the council will be able to use and continue to use are neighborhood improvement districts. I know that many of our local governments have struggled with how we're going to fund Sunrail over the next couple of years as other partners end up falling out of it. And as you can see down by Orlando Health, they're already putting together a neighborhood improvement district. I think this will be an added tool that will be critical to y'all in helping long-term funding plans for Sunrail and otherwise. So just wanted to keep it brief, but I thank you all for all your support all session, and looking forward to helping out again next year.
Thank you, Senator. And the Senator was very instrumental in support of our soccer legislation during the course of this session. We certainly thank you for that.
Absolutely, and I have to thank all the owners in the organization, because they were nice enough to come into our caucus meeting and pound the flesh and shake a few hands, and that was key to getting the whole Senate Democratic Caucus on board. And as you know, last year, the mayor has floor privileges still at on the Senate floor, so he knows last year the Senate wasn't the problem. The House had made some difficulties, but this year we smoothed it all over, and certainly thank you for your leadership and council members for your leadership as well. Appreciate the support.
Thank you, Senator. Okay. I should have done this at the very beginning, but I think now's a very appropriate time to recognize and welcome our newest city commissioner, who is 4.5 hours into the job right about now. So Regina Hill was elected the first Tuesday in May, and took office this morning, and we welcome you, Commissioner.
Thank you, sir.
So we had the oath of office ceremony this morning. In addition to Commissioner Hill, Commissioner Gray, and Commissioner Stewart, Districts 1 and 3, were also sworn in. They were elected this time unopposed, a luxury that I have never had the opportunity to experience. But congratulations to you as well. I look forward to your continued service. On July 4th, please join us at Lake Eola Park for fireworks at the fountain. Free patriotic event with kids' games and all types of activities on the East Lawn, and we will have live entertainment featuring the Orlando Philharmonic Orchestra and the concert band. Festivities begin at 4, and the fireworks are set for 9:10 exactly. Today on the agenda, we're going to approve a QTI refunding supporting the development of the USTA's state-of-the-art training facility and division headquarters for community tennis and player development in Lake Nona. This is one of the most exciting projects among a lot of exciting projects that we have going on, but this is really exciting on the sporting side of things. Lake Nona continues to be one of our main economic engines, and the new facility will create 150 new jobs with an average wage of more than $100,000. I would like to welcome Virgil Christian, who's a Senior Director for Market Development, and Thad Seymour from Lake Nona. Thank you for being here today. Also on first reading today is the Plan Development Ordinance for the Magic Sports and Entertainment Development, another exciting opportunity, and I just want to let you know that we will have an extensive, I don't know if it's going to be extensive, but we will have an overview from the team and the management on second reading. Right, Greg?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's really all I have today. We are going to have a legislative update, but we're going to do that after second reads today. So we will move on to the consent agenda, and the consent agenda is a number of items that are acted on through a single vote of council, and we give our commissioners an opportunity to comment on items from the consent agenda, as well as generally update you on items from their districts. We rotate the order in which we do that, and today we're going to begin with Commissioner Ings.
Thank you, Mayor, and again, congratulations to Commissioner Gray and Commissioner Stewart on your re-election, and I know that you guys have really been great on the council, and it's been a great thing for the council in working together for the good of the citizens of Orlando, so thank you for your service. And then, of course, welcome to our new District 5 Commissioner, Regina Hill. Congratulations on your election, and I know we're going to look for great things from you, and we'll be here to support you and be a part of this city as well. I'd like to also recognize that we did lose a great person, and that's Maya Angelou. She was a great author, poet, and historian. She was born April 4th, 1928, and she died May 28th, 2014, at the age of 86. So we're certainly going to miss her. And one of her quotes in one of her poems that I just truly loved, and this was something that I presented to June, and that was The Beautiful Christian Sister. And it reads, "A woman's heart should be so hidden in Christ that a man should have to seek him first to find her." And I think that's the way it happened with June and I, so we're really going to miss Maya Angelou. then also I'd like to report that Congresswoman Corrine Brown held her Department of Transportation Capacity Building Forum at the Links Administrative Office Building on Garland Street on Friday, May 23rd, and we had lots of participations there. Byron Brooks was there, Mayor, representing you. Reginald McGill was also there representing you as well. And we had lots of DBEs and other minority groups that were there too, so that was a great meeting. So congratulations to Congresswoman Corrine Brown. Jones High held its commencement exercises on Friday, May 23rd at 8 p.m. at the Amway Center. This was a great event too, and this was Commissioner Lynham's last March as commissioner with the Jones High School. So that was a great event that we attended at Jones High School. I'd also like to report that Herb Williams, the community center manager for the L. Claudia Allen Center, lost his mother, and the services were held Saturday, May 24th at St. John's Missionary Baptist Church. And so I definitely wanted us to know, and especially you, Mayor, if you had not heard, that one of our city employees lost their mother, and she was a great woman and a great woman in our community as well. And then on the agenda, item B6, I am going to vote no on that item. Reference the use of NOVA Engineering and Environmental for building inspection and plan review solutions, because I do think that there is an opportunity, especially when we're looking to have two inspectors, that we could have found someone here locally to do that job as well. But I'm really wanting to support our local people, Mayor, and so that's why I vote no on that, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll move on to District 1, Commissioner Gray.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'd like to thank everybody for the well wishes and the congratulatory message. Thank you very much. I'm honored to do it in District 1. I'll be brief. Most of the activities in District 1 we try to put on our website, and I would welcome you to go to the city website and find activities and happenings in the district. But I do want to mention and welcome our friends from the Tennis Association, USTA. Economic development, as I've said before, is a tricky business, and there's an element of risk involved. And it seems to me that when we do economic development, we want to pick partners that have an established reputation and history of performing at their end. And I think the USTA, by any measure, is that partner. And I want to congratulate the folks, at least from the city level, and there was a lot more folks involved than just the city, for their diligence. But welcome. We're glad to have you in the neighborhood. One of the lessons that I took out of this, and I'd share with you, is when you talk to the folks from the USTA and you say, why did you decide to select Orlando and Central Florida? Certainly economics are a piece of it, but the overriding issue I heard was they sensed the spirit of cooperation amongst the county, the city, and all the other governments involved. And I think it's a good lesson for us, as well as our partners, that we are a team. We're one component of Central Florida, and I think it's important that, again, we remind ourselves that as we embark upon economic development, we need to show a united front and realize sometimes people go in different parts. They don't always come to the city, but it's for the good of Central Florida. And that's the lesson I took from this. It gave us a distinct advantage that we went in as a united front. And our folks from Lake Nona were a big help in corralling those efforts, and I want to thank Thad and his team. So that's all I had, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes, sir. Thank you. First of all, let me congratulate Commissioner Gray, Commissioner Stewart, and new Commissioner Lieutenant Hale. Congratulations on your election. Mayor, down here in Puerto Rico with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we are about to start a trade mission, and we're looking forward to bring more businesses to Central Florida region, and of course also expand our services and businesses down to the island. These things is going to be a very successful mission. We have a great congregation coming from Orlando, and we have great meetings in the next few days aligned to bring some of those issues to a Central Florida region. And besides that, on item B6, I have registered the no vote, and after speaking to Mr. Von Bruce and Ms. Bruce Bond and Ms. Burley for the situation, the fact that this is going to be a pilot program, we're going to see how this works within the next 6 months. I'll intend my vote for yes. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Madam Clerk, you took note of that? Yes. Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor, and let me also offer my congratulations to Commissioner Gray and Commissioner Hill. Welcome aboard, Commissioner Hill. Thank you, sir. Looking forward to serving with you. Let me also, Senator Soto, thank you very much. I appreciate inflation has done a good job, but you get $30 million for us. It's just part of that deal. Thank you, Senator. Let me just cover a couple of quick things and some items on the agenda. Had a chance to spend some time over at the Asian Cultural Festival over at Orlando Fashion Square, and I'm really getting thrilled about what Orlando Fashion Square is doing, how they're reaching out to the community and seeing some really great projects over there. They're getting ready to do 2 other new ones, and it's really nice to be able to see that mall just filled with people. And then I had a chance to walk through a couple of stores and see people who are actually shopping too. So we've seen a real resurgence now start to happen there, and I'm really thrilled about what's going on there and all their great plans that are coming up. And we'll approve something on there today on their master plan along that same lines. This past weekend, we had a couple of events, the Green Up Orlando and the Keep Orlando Beautiful. We had volunteers over in Rosemont at 2 locations, over at the 18th Green and at Casey Lake, and then in College Park along Colonial Drive. So we had volunteers out. I think it's probably going to stop for a couple of months because the temperature is going to get to about 95 degrees every day, and then it'll pick back up in the fall. But I'm really excited about seeing our community engaged and making our community better. And I appreciate the work our volunteers have done, and I've mentioned it to them personally, and I'll single them out later on. A couple of congratulations as we speak, as we are meeting today. The Princeton Elementary Odyssey of the Mind group is on its way back from the University of Iowa from the international competition, where they placed 3rd in their category called Seeing is Believing. So congratulations to the Princeton Panthers, and I am a proud alumni of Princeton Elementary School. They are much smarter now than they were when I was there. Also, congratulations to Orlando Science School for qualifying 2 robotics teams, Clockwork Mania, and the other one is called NUTS, and stands for, Nerds United for Technological Superiority. It sounds like a Big Bang Theory, I think, for the Robotics World Championships. In their first year, they won the Rookie All-Star Award. In the second year, they won the highest commendation at the state championship, earning them a spot for the World Championships. Just wish them good luck for their competition. And it's wonderful to see our youth bringing back such a positive attention to our great city, and I get a chance to share with them on Wednesday night at their graduation. And then Father's Day is coming up, so happy Father's Day to everyone. 3 items on the agenda let me speak to briefly. B6, Brooke and Tim, thank you very much for getting this back to me quickly. Let me just share with you, I think, where we are, and I think it's a good understanding of why the pilot program is important. We're averaging roughly 21 inspections per day in 2014 with existing staff. Last year, we averaged 20 per day in 2013. We have 9 inspectors in 2014. We have 13 inspectors in 2013, so that gives you an idea of the growth that we already have experienced, and we're still seeing that growth. But the most important thing, I think, Tim, we want to continue to monitor is we have a rollover rate of 5.3. That's roughly 5.3 inspections per day that had to be bumped over to the next day. So the idea is that there's 26 or 27 inspections going out every day, and they're only getting 21 in. So this is why I think it's important to have this as a pilot program, and I'm happy to support that. And also keep up the same numbers, because I think we want to be able to see that from a policy standpoint. The second thing, there were some comments earlier made today about C8, about an assistance program for the Orlando Science School. I'm honored to support that. As a reminder, some of the times the text, the names that we give to items aren't quite accurate, so I want to make sure that we're on the same page. This nonprofit got a 28% assistance in impact fees only. I think that is worthwhile for where they're going. The second part is, as a reminder, to be eligible, you have to have been in the city of Orlando for 3 years prior to being applied. You have to be a bona fide 501c3, and it's only for the impact for sewer and those types of related things. So it's not somebody who's avoiding paying their appropriate fair share. It's an assistance program to encourage them to stay inside the city of Orlando, and I think that's important. And then last but not least, Mayor, if you'll allow me, I talked to Thomas. I'm not comfortable on I-8 because of how the wording is done for the approval of the content. And I asked Thomas, if you'll allow me, I would like to see if we can move that back, or what's the proper term I'm missing here?
If there's no objection, we'll just defer that item to the next meeting. That's item I3, approving traffic control cabinet and trash container artwork. That doesn't hurt us, does it, Thomas? Okay.
Yeah.
I think Commissioner's concern is just how the approval goes for the artwork. I think the other ones, we had the Main Street districts themselves doing the approval, so just work on that in the next week.
And here, the implication just in the contract is it comes to the city of the CRA, which means it comes back for approval for content to this board. And I'd really prefer, from an operational standpoint, that it would have some people out of the community having that kind of involvement. So, but the way it's written today, it comes back to us, and I'm not sure that's the intent is, because we have that buffer. I said buffer, but they have that kind of boots on the ground in our Main Street programs that will make that change. So, thank you for doing that, Mayor. I appreciate that. Let me mention one last thing, and I mentioned this in honor of Chief Mina. We have had a great couple of meetings. I've heard about 2 or 3 others, and then, of course, the one in College Park for the District 3 about the Summer Safety Series. Thank you, Chief Mina. Thank you, Chief Miller, for being there as well. One of the things that we are continuing to push is what we call Operation Lock It Up. It's a program that we started in District 3. We're continuing to try to do it throughout all the districts. We've got roughly 16 and a half hours of survey work done in each of our neighborhoods. And in those, we have found more than 160 vehicles unlocked in our neighborhoods. I said this in front of our group, and I'll say it again. If you'd like to give an engraved invitation to criminals to come into your neighborhood, keep your cars unlocked. That's a good way just to invite them in. So we're trying to create that awareness. So we're doing some work with OUC. They're doing some things as well. So that's the first line of defense, is secure your own property, what we offer in Neighborhood Watch. This is one of those things. Just recently we did a walk around Lake Formosa area prior to the National Night Out and found 21 vehicles unlocked around Lake Formosa area. That we all need to participate, and I continue to say that over and over again. If it's a locked car is a crime of opportunity, let's remove the opportunity. It's just that simple. And so I appreciate the work the OPD's doing, appreciate the work that Kevlon Kirkpatrick's doing wherever he is. I think he's around someplace, and the corporal, and then all the liaison officers, and especially the leadership of Chief Mina. Thank you, Chief, for doing that. And that's all that I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll move to District 4. Commissioner Sheehan.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'd like to also congratulate Commissioner Gray and Commissioner Stewart. You all did really well and didn't mess up your oath, which you did outstanding. And also welcome new District 5 Commissioner Regina Hill. I really look forward to working with her. And when you work really hard to achieve something, you never take it for granted. I know you have a servant heart, and I really look forward to working with you. On the agenda today, Track Shack on item B2. I'm very glad to see we got a local business again getting this, and that we're not farming out these contracts to other cities. I'd also like to see if there's some way that we can not just give local preference, but also rank firms that are participating in our Main Street program. Because again, this is a local business that's been here for over 20 years, and we were outsourcing this last year to Altamont Springs. The firefighters were complaining that they had to go so far to get their shoes, and it just didn't make sense. So again, I think as far as local preference and again giving these contracts to local people, I think we should definitely do all that we can to make sure that these kind of contracts stay within Orlando. And I must also admit that John Hughes was my track coach in high school. I'm disclosing that right now. I do have a long-standing relationship with them. So anyway, and I used to come down to ride my moped when I was 15 to buy my shoes from Track Shack, even when I lived up in Castleberry. So yes, I have a long-standing relationship with them. I'm delighted to see the bus transportation on item B3 for the city recreation program with Orange County Public Schools. Transportation is so necessary for these kids to get to these programs, so that's a great thing on the agenda today. On item B6, I support the permitting text. I know there's some concerns over how we're doing it, but again, I'm getting so many complaints in my district from the inspections not happening in a timely fashion, for not being able to get people back to do reinspection. I think this is something really important that we get going, and if there's opportunities to streamline that, that's great. But we really are in a crisis crunch, and we need to get something done so we can streamline some of this permitting. On item C2, the A-Loft, I'm glad to see the historic preservation property tax exemption. This is exactly what it's designed to do, to encourage redevelopment of distressed property and also to save buildings that have historic value. So I think this is a wonderful thing. I'm glad to see this, probably the largest historic preservation property tax exemption that we've seen, but I'd love to see more of this happening. On item C14, something very, very important to me, of course, is the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District. They just accepted the vote to run forward with their ad valorem tax of up to 2 mills. And just to clarify, 323 properties voted yes, 191 voted no. So I know there's been a lot of confusion about who voted and all that, but it clearly passed, and it will enable us to leverage state and federal funds to improve this district. I want to thank Jason Burton and Kyle Shepard, who worked very, very hard on this, and especially after the passing of Kevin Tajewski, because again, when Kevin left, that was a huge loss. Well, he passed away. There was a huge loss, and Kyle and Jason did an amazing job to work with these groups. So I want to thank them so much for their work to get the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District passed. And I think you're really going to start seeing some additional great changes in that area because of the hard work of these gentlemen, as well as the folks who've worked so hard, the businesses, the Main Street in this area, to really bring this area, bring it along, especially with Sunrail and everything else that's happening in the area. I'm delighted to be able to represent this area and see some really positive change. And in terms of I-3 on the traffic control art boxes and dumpsters, I know this is something that's really catching on. It started in my district. It's going all over the place. And if we don't want to review them ourselves, possibly using the Public Art Advisory Board, which is something that, they haven't really been doing the art like they should. Why don't we just allow them to go ahead and review them? It's actually a lot of fun to do these because you get a lot of submissions. And what's really kind of neat about this traffic control and dumpster art is it really democratizes the whole program. You get a lot of new artists in. They love doing this stuff and creates a lot of excitement. So rather than micromanage it, let's go ahead and let our art boards maybe take it and do something that might be kind of fun for them. That's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, and to District 5, Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Commissioners, for the warm reception that I've gotten. Thank you, Mayor, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you this next 4 years. What's going on in District 5? Last Friday, I had the opportunity to be on the commencement program for Unity in Uniform upstairs on the 9th floor. And what they are firemen, nurses, EMT personnel throughout the city that mentor youth here in the Orlando area, and they had a graduating class. Also, I was the keynote speaker at a Bridge to Independence, which is a charter school in the Mercer Drive corridor with the K through 12, and they had their first graduating senior that is going off to Valencia to become a fireman, and that was fantastic to see such bright kids there in the Mercer Drive area. That was kindergartners reading those second grade levels, and it's just so much hope in that area and what they're doing over there. Also was able to go to Harvest Baptist Christian Center, Christian Church there in the Paramore area, in which they had a graduating class of 2 seniors and a few 8th graders and some kindergartners over at Reverend Hamilton Church. And last Wednesday night, I was able to attend a Stop the Violence youth prayer vigil because of the crime that has been increased with the youth here in the inner city of Orlando. We had a prayer vigil, and summer's getting out, so we invited all the parents to offer them with past Senator Gary Simplin summer jobs and internship programs for the summer with Bishop Kevin Cabarrus as the pastor. He spearheaded that, and we'll be doing more of those throughout the summer. I attended a open house there at Orange Blossom Healthcare on OBT, which at one time was only addressing medical care for the homeless, but now it's a high-tech a medical center with dental, vision. They go out into the woods and help veterans and all the homeless with medical care and mental health care. State-of-the-art facility. I was quite impressed with the CEO, Bakari Burns. I look forward to partnering with them. And also, I'm really hopeful that the I-3 item next month can move ahead, because there's so many people in District 5 that wants it. Rock Lake is one of them. They've been fighting for those containers, and not really dumpster sites because they're residential, but they're in the Paramore corridor with HJ High for our youth to have something to do. There's so many artists there in that area. And when they walk down the street and they see that they're a part of something, as far as some artwork that they personally did, I think that is something to build their esteem. That's all I've done in the last 2 weeks. Been kind of busy. So I look forward to serving our community and being servants along with you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there a motion to approve?
So
the consent
moved.
agenda?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ings, second by Commissioner Sheehan. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. And Commissioner Ings is a no on B6. Okay, without objection, we will recess the City Council meeting and convene the CRA. First item of business is accepting meeting minutes from the CRA Advisory Board for March the 26th. Is there a motion to accept those minutes?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, so the motion carries. Approving meeting minutes from the April 28th CRA meeting is the second item.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gray. Slow second. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right. Thomas, number 3.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners, and to add my a very, very special welcome to the newest member of the Community Redevelopment Agency, the distinguished Commissioner from District 5, Commissioner Hill. Item number 3 is the Homeless Outreach Funding Agreement for CRA today. For the last year, under an agreement with the CRA and other entities, the Healthcare Center for the Homeless, or HCCH, has been providing outreach services within the downtown CRA. The CRA desires to partner with this agency again in order to retain the services of 2 homeless outreach specialists currently serving the downtown CRA. During that first year, these 2 outreach specialists have referred more than 400 unduplicated clients to various treatment centers for various services such as emergency shelter, permanent housing, alcohol and substance abuse, identification services, medical and dental as well, as over 207 men have been referred to the Coalition for the Homeless for program services, and 212 clients have been referred to various other treatment centers, including the Center for Drug-Free Living, Central Core Mission, Hosanna Ministries, Wayne Dench, Lakeside Residential, and the Salvation Army. In fact, just in this current quarter, which we have, I think, just 2 months in, 15 individuals have been placed in transitional or permanent housing thus far. Therefore, staff is requesting that the CRA enter into a funding agreement with the HCCH for the Homeless Services and the Homeless Services Network of Central Florida, or HSN, in order to provide funding for 2 homeless outreach specialists for the term of July 1st, 2014 through June 30th of 2015. Total cost of these services is projected to exceed $105,000, with the agreement calling for the CRA to contribute $60,000 as it has in this current year, and HSN has agreed to once again contribute $35,000, with HCCH contributing the balance of the funding necessary. ACCH will continue to supervise the activities of the outreach specialists as part of its HOPE team, and will provide quarterly reports, or continue to provide quarterly reports and summary reports to the CRA and HSN. The CRA Advisory Board, in its meeting on May 21st, Mayor and Commissioners recommended approval, subject to review and approval by the City Attorney's Office, and authorization for the Chairman and the Executive Director to execute such agreement, and recommended authorization of expenditures from the Downtown Orlando Community Redevelopment Area Trust Fund in the amount of $60,000 for the Homeless Outreach Funding Agreement.
I motion approved.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan, Commissioner Stewart, then Commissioner Ings.
Yes, Mayor, if you'll allow me, I'm going to need to abstain on this issue. The part of the funding will actually go to their location. Their location is at the Christian Service Center, and that's using for that. But if you allow me a personal privilege after the vote, I'd like to share something with that. But until then, I'll need to abstain.
Okay. Commissioner Ings.
Thank you, Mayor. Thomas, I appreciate the report, but as it relates with any statistical data
Yes, sir.
concerning the two specialists,
Yes, sir.
outreach specialists,
Yes, sir.
you know, what have they done, say, the past year? Do we have any highlights to show just how effective they have been that you can state at this time?
You mean in addition to what I just stated?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, because that is all relevant to this prior year. And as it says, they turn in quarterly reports and some reports to us. I'm happy to provide a compilation of that, or the individuals, if the commissioner would prefer, we can compile that information. Again, and some of it can be duplicitous, quite frankly. That's why I pointed out that 400 of these referrals were unduplicated referrals. Those are 400 different distinct individuals that were sent to various treatments in various facilities. But I don't have any additional reports right now in my notebook, Commissioner. But again, we get quarterly reports from HCCH, and we can make those available to you.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of interested in, is to kind of hone down into it just a little bit more. You know,
Sure.
I know that we've got the big number there and everything, but at the same time, you know, how have they done it over a period of time? You know, what's been the high months, the low months, and that kind of thing, and then even some of the qualitative stuff that they've done. And I did see some of that in the background information
Sure.
and everything, but if there was anything additional, because I think the two positions are excellent positions and that they're doing great jobs here in the downtown area, and they're spending a lot of time in downtown, and I'm quite sure that the local merchants and business folks are happy with what they're doing, as well as the police department. And I'm sure that there is some cooperation between all three of them. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you, Thomas.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Commissioner Stewart, you're recognized for
Yes,
comments.
let me share one thing briefly, because I didn't want to share this prior to the vote. We work closely with the Christian Service Center with these guys because they are in our facility. I want to share briefly, to your point, Commissioner Ings, a story. 2 weeks ago, a woman came to us asking for food assistance. We realized that she was homeless and began to need some referral information. We immediately went to the group that was upstairs when they were there. They came and contacted her. We found out that she actually was in prostitution, and that she had been had snuck away from her pimp, if you want to call it that, and had gotten to see us about trying to get some additional food and support. We immediately contacted her relatives up in Tennessee, and through the work of this group and our work and one other agency, we got her set aside for about a day until she could get on the bus and get home. We got a confirmation from the mother that she had not seen her in 3 years and didn't know if she was even existing, even alive, and then and got confirmation that she would love to take her back in. And last word we heard was that she's getting ready to enroll in school in Tennessee. So this is the kind of cooperation that goes on in that group, and I'm thrilled to be part of it from an agency standpoint. But I know that they're affecting and touching lives, in the downtown corridor. And that's the kind of stuff I think that Commissioner Ings is kind of asking for.
Commissioner, I appreciate that. I would add to that and remind the Commission that this is the first year, our present year is the first year of the present agreement and the arrangement where HCCH has been managing these two outreach specialists as a part of their HOPE team. As Commissioner from District 5 stated earlier, we have utmost respect in Bakari Burns and his operation and how they've been doing this. He's working very closely with Walter Hawkins in our camp and keeping us surprised. And you'll recall from the original that you've also agreed to a substantial investment in the new Men's Service Center, which will be coming online at some point in the near future. And we anticipate, it's not definitely yet, of course it will come before this entity, but we anticipate that this type service will also feed quite significantly and mesh really well with the new Men's Service Center when it becomes available with its comprehensive case management and other short-term and long-range services that it will provide. So we're happy to have them. We think HCCH is doing a fine job with them, and we appreciate your support.
Okay, thank you. Any further business come before the CRA?
There is none, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Without objection, we'll stand adjourned. We'll now convene the Neighborhood Improvement District Board of Directors meeting, and the first item of business is accepting meeting minutes from the Advisory Council of May 14, 2014. Is there a motion to accept those minutes?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. And then the second item is simply acknowledging the city clerk's certification of the results of the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District tax referendum, which was an item on the consent agenda. Is there a motion on that action?
Well, so moved, and since we're districting, this is all in District 4 now, so.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. We will adjourn the Neighborhood Improvement District meeting, reconvene the City Council meeting, which brings us to new business. And we have the election of 2 mayors pro tem for one-year terms beginning June 2014 through June 2015. Let's start with the Mayor Pro Tem 1.
Mayor.
Commissioner Ortiz is recognized.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to appoint Commissioner Stewart as Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ortiz, second by Commissioner Ings, that on the nomination of Commissioner Stewart as Pro Tem, are there any other nominations? That the nominations shall cease. All in favor of Commissioner Stewart as Mayor Pro Tem 1 indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Guess we can see if there's any no votes on that.
Didn't ask me yet.
Okay. Congratulations, Commissioner Stewart, Mayor Pro Tem 1. Now do we have a motion on Mayor Pro Tem 2, Commissioner Stewart?
I think following the same code, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Gray as Mayor Pro Tem 2.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Ings. Are there further nominations? If not, the nominations will cease. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, congratulations. Commissioner Gray, I think this is your first stint as a pro tem, right?
Take that honor. Yes, sir.
Okay, well, there's a 8-hour orientation course that Atlanta will get to you tomorrow.
I covered 8 minutes for you.
Okay, we're going to move to hearings. Next on the agenda is a public hearing for the proposed Fashion Square Mall DRI amendment. This item was recommended for approval by the Municipal Planning Board on April the 15th, 2014, and is consistent with the Fashion Square Master Plan number 2014-6, approved on today's consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second by someone?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Ings. I would like to open the public hearing on this item. Does anyone wish to be heard? I do have one card or appearance request. Paul Dorello.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor, members of the Commission. My name is Paul Dorelli. I'm with National Entitlement Advisors here on behalf of Sears Holdings Corporation. We thank you for a couple minutes of your time today. I'm the authorized development representative for them, working on their Fashion Mall ownership asset and other sites for them in Florida and nationally. We have a request that this item would be tabled for an additional 2 weeks to give us some additional opportunity to work with the ownership of the mall. We have been an owner at the mall for a significant number of years, in fact, dating back to 1990 when the original DRI application was filed. The mall owner at that point in time brought to Sears a affidavit of consent, which Sears signed and joined into the DRI. The property is within the DRI boundaries and comprises almost 20% of the land area within that DRI boundary. We believe that we should have been actually properly brought to the table to consider the amendments to the master plan. We know that on our understanding as staff may beg to take a different position with that, but regardless of whether the statute mandates that we be joined or have a consent right or at least a substantial notice right in connection with these proceedings, we were not so brought into the process. We have our own development plan. We are very pro-economic development, so I want to say that at the outset. We're certainly not trying to slow down economic development in the city. In fact, we're very excited to be bringing forth shortly a plan to you that would redevelop the Sears property, would maintain a Sears presence, but bring some other exciting retail and shopping opportunities to the Sears site. We have shared that with mall ownership in an effort in the last couple of weeks to come to some understanding how our respective plans will interface. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of time as this matter is being brought forward to you for consideration without us being brought into the process early to really vet and come to some closure on those issues. We had a productive meeting with their engineering representative and Mr. Scott Fish on the phone. We're moving in a positive direction, but we could not come to some mutual consensus on our plans before today's meeting. We would respect that we have some additional opportunity afforded to us by tabling this matter forward again. We believe that given that we were a party to the original DRI approval and whose consent was sought, a master plan put in place that considered retail development over the site, that we should naturally, as a property owner within that boundary, have been afforded some opportunity to be brought to the table to review those major amendments, which are adding new uses, 590 residential units, increase in trips, et cetera, and we weren't afforded that opportunity. There is a concept in law, equal dignity, which kind of says the way you do it the first time is the way you should do it the second time from a formality standpoint. Our consent was sought originally to the DRI, major amendments being brought forward. We weren't provided an opportunity. With that said, as soon as we actually came into the city on February 14th for a meeting with staff, just as a meet and greet to discuss the fact that we were going to be bringing forward a concept plan, and we were told by staff at that point that there was a concept plan that was floating around recently submitted by the mall owner that was going to add some multifamily uses. We took a look at that and said, by the way, you've got some improvements on the Sears property. They've since pulled those off, and we said, we'd love to interface when the real plan moves beyond a concept. Here's our cards and our information. We're the authorized development representatives. We did not hear back until it was April 21st. My colleague made another visit to city staff and said, oh, by the way, the mall came in with their site, their master plan amendment and DRI amendment. It already went to planning board, and it's going to be at city commission in 2 weeks. At which point we engaged our counsel, Greenberg Traurig, to help us understand process and where we were. They were brought here, and we thank you for the deferral you gave last time so we could begin a process of working together, and we have worked diligently to evaluate their plan, to meet with them. We just haven't gotten to a place yet in that short order of time to feel comfortable that we fully understand all the issues. It's a big project. And we would just respectfully request additional time to continue that dialogue. Again, not looking to stifle economic development. We're looking to bring our own economic development, but we don't want to race the process in time at the risk of compromising Sears property rights, and we would respectfully request that tabling or deferral today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your position and look forward to seeing the Sears redevelopment project as well.
Mayor, is the owner representative from the DRI here?
Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Commissioner? Please approach.
Yes.
Since you don't have an appearance request card, if you would fill one out
Sure.
at the conclusion and give us your name and title.
Certainly. My name is J.J. Johnson. I'm attorney for UP Fieldgate U.S. Investments, LLC, subsidiary of UP Development, who is the ground lessee of the Fashion Square Mall and owner of the buildings. As Commissioner Stewart mentioned, since my client bought the mall in February of 2013, they have been under the process of redeveloping and refitting what was once the premier mall in the area, which has gone down considerably over the years. Was losing tenants, sales were down. It was really in a dire strait. In the last year and a half, they've been in the process of redeveloping it. On March 10th, we submitted our application for the master plan and an amendment to the DRI. In, I think, early April, either April 2nd or April 3rd, notices were sent to all owners, including Sears, of the forthcoming Municipal Planning Board Committee. There were no objections were brought by Sears or anybody else. We passed the Municipal Planning Board on April 15th, and we're scheduled to come before this commission on May 12th. Unbeknownst to us, I guess at May 12th, the Agenda Review Committee, representatives from Sears stepped forth and said that they had some concerns and would like to have the opportunity to address those with us. We did meet with Sears. I believe it was May 22nd or 23rd. It was a very cordial meeting. My client stated that he was happy they were looking to redevelop their side of the mall because he felt like it really needed to be upgraded, consistent with what my client is doing with the rest of the mall. At that time, Sears raised no objections as to our plan, or really no objections as to having notice or anything of that nature. We, after the meeting, we agreed that we would continue in good faith and look forward to developing the mall, together, but along our separate courses, in time with what our requirements were. Last night at about 10:30, I got an email with a proposed document from counsel for Sears. It was a restrictive covenant agreement, which would basically restrict our property from having any say or objection in what Sears does on its side of the mall and vice versa. Clearly, we would not have time to review such a document or discuss that with our various tenants or the owner of the property. But my client is frankly out of time. We've got commitments with tenants and lenders, and we've just got commitments. We've already been tabled from the May 12th meeting, and we've met with Sears. We really, although we're happy that Sears is redeveloping their center, we're not able to really sign some type of restrictive covenant. We're happy to be involved and look forward to what they're going to develop on their side, but at this time we need to move forward with our development because we have time constraints that we have to meet.
Commissioner Stewart.
Yeah, Dean, I think you called me earlier. Did you call me about this? Because I didn't have a chance to call you back with all the activity this morning. Is there anything that you can share or add? It seems to me that if Sears comes back with a change, that the process would be that they would also then have the ability to come in and amend the DRI. Is that correct? And they would then present their master plan because the master plan we approved last
Dean,
time.
would you step to
the master plan we approved?
Verbally answer, because that won't be reflected in the record.
The master plan we approved today did not include the Sears property because it was only the property that was on the eastern side, correct?
Right. It's complicated, and you, as council, don't see DRIs that often. In fact, DRIs are not even required anymore by the state. In fact, this area is considered a doula, which would not normally be required to have a DRI. But to answer your question, depending on what Sears proposes to do, it would be one of two things. If they propose to redevelop the site and keep essentially the same square footage of retail that's there today, that would be an amendment to the master plan, but would not be an amendment to the DRI because there's no increased entitlements needed. Only if they're proposing to change substantially the square footage on their site would it trigger the need for a DRI amendment.
But Sears would have the ability, because they're located within the DRI, to come to MPB and to bring that forward as well at that time. Is that correct?
Sears or Fashion Square? If Sears were making the application, Fashion Square would have the opportunity to come.
Exactly, but because Sears is
Absolutely.
a property owner within the DRI and would want to change the entitlements, they could then bring that forward to MPB, and at that time, then the DRI could be discussed.
If they're proposing an increase in entitlements,
Right.
yes. Again, at this point in time, we don't know whether that's being proposed, but that's certainly an option for them.
But if they don't make any change to the entitlements of the DRI,
It would be an amendment just to the master plan.
and they have their own separate master plan because their master plan is not included in the other master plan.
That's correct.
So they would just be able to bring their master
Their
plan forward.
coterminous master plans joined at the hip through the DRI.
Yeah. So it seems to me that we have plenty of opportunity for flexibility for Sears in the future without having to delay this any farther.
Correct. We believe that there's been proper notification. We believe also that we followed all state statutes. The Regional Planning Council, the State Department of Economic Opportunity, they've all commented on this project, including the Florida Department of Transportation. None have raised any objections. All the changes to this DRI fall below the substantial thresholds as established under statutes, and we believe as such that it should be approved.
Yeah. Thank you. With that in mind, Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and call the question.
Okay, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. As a yes by you, Commissioner Ortiz? All right. Hearings, ordinances, second reading, number one, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, designating certain land generally located north of the Osceola County boundary, south of Clapp-Sims-Duda Road, east of Narcoossee Road, and west of the Split Oak Forest Mitigation Park, comprised of about 211 acres as Planned Development, PD District, in part, and Planned Development District with the Aircraft Noise Overlay, PDAN District, in part, on the city's official zoning maps, providing special land development regulations of the Planned Development District, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Gray, second by Commissioner Stewart. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number two, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the land development regulations associated with certain portions of the existing Orlando Lutheran Towers Planned Development Zoning District, relating to certain land generally located north of East Church Street, south of East Pine Street, east of Lake Avenue, and west of South Osceola Avenue in the South Eola neighborhood, and comprised of approximately 0.7 acres of land, providing an amended development plan, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Ordinance's first read, number one.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, annexing to the corporate limits of the city certain land generally located north of Vine Street, east of Francis Avenue, south of Hand Boulevard, and west of South Bumby Avenue, and comprised of 0.46 acres, more or less. Amending the city's adopted growth management plan to designate the property as residential low intensity on the city's official future land use maps, and designating the property as the R3AT district on the city's official zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
I'm sorry, motion by,
Regina Hill.
of course it is. Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. Okay. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 2, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida relating to lighting regulations, amending Chapter 63, Environmental Protection, by creating new Part 2M entitled Outdoor Lighting, consolidating existing outdoor lighting regulations in the new Part 2M, providing purpose and intent of lighting regulations and definitions, requiring an outdoor lighting plan for certain development, providing submittal requirements for applications for outdoor lighting plan approval, providing lighting plan regulations, variance approval process, and alternative standards for outdoor lighting plans, providing for severability, codification, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ing, second by Commissioner Hill. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion carries. Number 3, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City of Orlando granting Signature Landscape Contractors, LLC, a non-exclusive franchise to provide roll-off container collection and disposal of solid waste within the City of Orlando, outlining franchisees' duties and providing the terms and conditions under which such franchise shall operate, providing for severability and an effective date.
So moved. Second.
Was that Commissioner Hill?
Hill, Sheehan. Yep.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Anybody want to testify on the roll-off franchise? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, number 4, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, designating certain land generally located north of West Church Street, east of South Division Avenue, south of West Central Boulevard, and west of South Huey Avenue, and comprised of 7.82 acres of land, more or less, as planned development district with the traditional city and Paramore Heritage Overlay Districts on the city's official zoning maps, providing special land development regulations of the planned development district, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Ings. Is there anyone for the public that would like to testify? I do have a appearance request card, Lawana Gelser.
Lawana Gelser, 7674 St. Stevenson Court, Orlando, zip 32804. Mayor, I know you've updated your website, but sometimes it's just difficult to find some of the things, and your links have disappeared. But I would like to know, have there been any information provided to anybody, or is it on the website, in reference to this ordinance and the impact it will have on the overall Paramore community? Because it's overlapping, and I'm very concerned about changing the zoning or the ordinance and all the things that go into this downtown sports entertainment district. I'm looking at what is transpiring with the downtown, with Church Street, with the CRA stretching all the way up to the Citrus Bowl down Church Street. But right in the core of the middle of the Paramore community, you're having this to go on. Have anyone checked to see what the impact of the residents will have? What will happen if this is granted? So I'm really concerned about the long-term impact of the rest of the community. Because if this is granted and we don't know that, we know that certain things have happened to this community, and whatever the reason may be, this community is still suffering. With all the money and all the things that we wanted to do for this community is suffering. So I would like to see if there was a survey done, and if it has not been done, what's the possibility of getting some of that information provided? If no one else wants it, I want it, because it's not on your website. Then I want to really be concerned about the ordinance 0-2-23, and that's the ordinance about homeless shelters or social services programs within the Paramore Heritage community. And in that section, with what's going on with the proposed for the Magic and all of their sports complex and the hotel and everything, there's a strong possibility that the rescue mission might have to be relocated. I've heard that it might be relocated to Orange Blossom Trail and Polk Street, where there used to be a recycling facility. But in this ordinance, it says you cannot expand, but we've expanded the homeless shelter, the men, you've expanded. That's a violation of this ordinance. It cannot be relocated within the Paramore community. If a shelter wants to go somewhere else, that's fine. we are going to do something for an ordinance, but if we do certain things and we're not upholding the ordinance that you said you were going to do when it came to services, especially social services in the Paramore community, I'm concerned that we will be looked over again. So I bring that up to say, what's the impact of the community? Have that been taken in consideration? It might be the most wonderful thing. The presentation is great, but we need to know that so we can be properly prepared what the impact might be. And if there's going to be relocation, is this ordinance going to be upheld? And if it's going to be upheld, then no other expansions, no other social services programs should be in the Paramore Heritage community, even relocating. That's what it says in this ordinance. So I'm asking you to please uphold the ordinance that you have on the books, and if you adopt this ordinance, see what the impact will be to the rest of the community. We deserve to know what's going to affect us. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there discussion among commissioners? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. All right, Kathy Russell, you're on. So this is our 2014 legislative update, and we had a, I'd say, very successful legislative session, assuming that there are no vetoes of any appropriations that we care deeply about.
Mayor and Commissioners, thank you for allowing us to present to you about the 2014 legislative session. It was different from previous years. There was plenty of money available to sprinkle around, and fewer bills passed. This year, close to 2,000 bills were filed, but only 264 were actually passed, and that's the smallest number in a decade. This was probably a very good thing for all of us. The legislature did pass a $77.1 billion state budget, the largest in history, providing a $500 million increase for school funding and a considerable amount of money for local member projects. The 2014 legislature also was able to provide $500 million in tax cuts at the governor's urging, passed a number of veteran-friendly bills, tougher laws for sexual predators, and the state's first limited step into medical marijuana. Some high-profile issues were not addressed this session since the leadership decided not to tackle gaming, Medicaid expansion, or Springs restoration. Overall, it was a very good year for local governments. In most instances, we were able to derail bills that were costly or preempted our local control. Here is the city's legislative agenda. Our legislative team is going to give you a brief update about these issues. Let's see, Oscar Anderson and Alex Setzer are going to talk to you about transportation. Robert Stewart and Chris Carmody are going to talk to you about taxation and economic development, and our own Kyle Shepard is going to talk to you about urban administration. But I'm going to talk to you about the first issue, and this was professional sports franchise, which, as the mayor kept saying, you only have one issue on your agenda, Kathy. Before House Bill 7095 was passed, the existing 8 professional sports franchise simply had to get an independent economic impact assessment demonstrating that they would generate $2 million in sales tax each year approved by the Department of Economic Opportunity. Then they were awarded $2 million for 30 years. There were no additional checks and balances in place. I might add, however, that these older facilities turned out to be a very good investment for the government, because in total they get $16 million a year, but they are generating back to the state $48 million a year. That's a 3-to-1 return on their investment. However, the new bill creates a transparent rigorous process requiring additional oversight and legislative approval of state incentives for these professional sports franchises. And I want to walk you through those because they're very important for us to be able to obtain a soccer-specific stadium. The Department of Economic Opportunity is now required to first verify 7 factors that must be met by an interested party before they can even apply. Then the DEO must rank the application on a list of criteria, and that can range from how much of out-of-state visitors can you bring to your facility to the amount of private and local financial contributions for the project. DEO will rank these projects and then submit them to the legislature for final approval. The state also wanted to guarantee a return on their investment. Therefore, if the total project is going to receive $100 million, with an annual the annual distribution can be up to $2 million. However, the incentives are capped at 75% of the sales tax generated by the project. For example, in our case, we must demonstrate by an independent economic analysis that our facility will generate $2.6 million a year before we're able to get our $2 million. To assist us with qualifying for this rebate, a significant change was made to this legislation. The previous legislation, the only thing that they could collect the sales tax on was during an event, whatever sales tax happened in that stadium, and that was mainly admissions and concessions. Through our efforts, the new bill will allow the application to include parking controlled by the applicant, team operations and necessary leases, and then ancillary development within 1,000 feet of such things as team stores, retail, lodging, commercial uses, as determined by the department. So if you can see on this slide, the black line of the square is all the land that the applicant, which is the city, owns. And then if you go out 1,000 feet, which will also include the SED, that anything legitimately that we think we can generate, you know, as you've seen when these old stadiums were done, like the arena, we surrounded it by surface parking. There wasn't a way to really have a lot of economic development. They weren't 24/7 places. There were no restaurants in them. There were no meeting rooms. Now we put them in an urban area. We make them 24/7 places, multi-use restaurants, lounges nearby, make them a people place. So we think legitimately we should be able to collect that as legitimate sales tax, and that will be negotiated with the Department of Economic Opportunity because it's so new. It's never been done before, and that was done by the City of Orlando staff, and I want to give Rebecca Sutton credit. This is her, I call it her Picasso, and that Jody Litchford and Kyle Shepard, time after time, we said, can you draft this? Can we draft this? Is ancillary a good word? You know, and they came up with it, and we were able to get it in the bill. Another important requirement was the clawback provision, and that was something that the governor really wanted. The state wanted, they had made some bad investments with incentives. They had invested in a lot of businesses that went belly up. So they wanted to minimize their risk by being reimbursed for any shortfalls. However, we didn't want those shortfalls to be so complicated that we could not bond the money. So they gave us 2 options. One option was to require the applicant to reimburse the state at the end of the contract period for any shortfalls of total distributions plus 5%. So that means in our case, at the end of 30 years, we would have to reimburse any shortfall of the $2 million we had received. The other option is to reimburse each year any shortfall, the required sales tax generated by the facility, and this would be year to year, but it would be based on the $2.6 million amount. The last important change is if the applicant is a new project or a project commenced between March 1st, 2013 and July 2014. We will go, whoever qualifies for there, you go to the Legislative Budget Commission, which will meet January 1st or thereafter in 2015. This will allow 3 projects, the Daytona Speedway, the Miami Soccer Project, and our soccer stadium, to begin quicker. In this way, we will not have to go back and wait and go back to the full legislature, and that'll save a lot in construction costs. And we did have a great support system. I want to show you some of them. One is the governor and his wife. He was actually an assistant soccer coach, and his wife was a soccer mom. Then it never hurts to have a little sex appeal. There's David Beckham. His project, he's run into a little trouble down there at the port, so he's probably going to move it, but he's still in the game.
And the other woman happens to be the most important House staffer related to the bill.
Yes. The
who we
mayor
made sure
helped
Beckham
pull that off.
Yep.
And then there is some of your lobbyists. We decided to take a victory lap at the end of session. And the last thing I'm going to talk to you about is appropriations. While you were all in budget review, the governor sent out his veto list. There were a ton of hometown projects in it, and he just vetoed about $79 million. However, none of ours were on it. And I want to talk to you about the ones we got. One was for Conserve 2, nutrient treatment enhancement for $400,000, and it was by Senator Simmons and Representative Stewart. And although it did not pass this year, the Springs legislation required wastewater treatment plants to remove harmful nitrogen levels impacting these endangered water bodies. In Conserve 2, specifically the rapid infiltration basin known as RIB 6, has been identified, particularly by the League of Women Voters, as having a potential impact on the Wekiva spring shed. There does not appear to be scientific proof that that is the case, but in the spirit of good partnership with the state, we took an intermediate step by requesting state funding matched by the city. The funds will be used to purchase mixers to increase nitrogen removal efficiency by 10 to 15%. It should be noticed that we're currently permitted to do 10 milligrams per liter, but this will reduce it to 5, and then the legislature wants us to come back and reduce it to 3 milligrams per liter. I got into this issue, as you can see. So if you want to know what RIB 6 looks like, there it is in all its glory. And there you've got Senator Simmons and Representative McClellan trying to ponder whether this water is going to go north to the Wekiva Basin or if it's going to go northeast out into the hinterlands. But who knows? The second one was the Florida Children's Initiative for $1.5 million by Senator Thompson and Representative Anton. And this is something, joint project with Miami, Jacksonville, Orlando, patterned after our Harlem Zone pre-KZ. And Lisa worked very, very hard on this project for 2 years. She stayed with her coalition. And we were hoping the legislature would finally recognize that this is a model that could probably be replicated in other communities. It did get on the hit list, but Mayor Dyer put it on his not to be vetoed list. We sent that to the governor, and it was not vetoed. There also is $10 million for quiet zones, and the demand for this funding is going to be much greater than the supply. But we feel for our Sunrail quiet zones that we have a good chance of getting some of that funding. It requires a 50% match, and we've already started working on our application process because we wanted to get a jump on it. And then last but not least, and probably one of the most significant ones we did, is with partnership with UCF, is a downtown presence in partnership with the City of Orlando. And that's for $2 million, and that was by Senator Gardner, and it is recurring money. And these funds will be used to engage nationally recognized consultants to assist in the planning and development of a major university presence in Creative Village. And this will be in partnership with Valencia, with us, and with others. The study will be able to tap some of the best minds in the nation to do an analysis of what higher education programs do you bring downtown and what business incubator systems do you bring that would be a good fit in an urban setting. In addition, the consultants will identify those services and infrastructure necessary to support these programs. You can't just bring a university downtown. You can't bring a bunch of students downtown unless you think about housing, transportation, parking, and support. So we've got plenty of money to do it right. And that concludes my presentation, and we'll go on to transportation.
Thank you, Kathy. Welcome, Oscar.
Thanks, Kathy. Mayor, commissioners, how are you? Uh-oh, wrong thing. What did I do? There we go. Kathy asked Southern Strategy Group to talk about a few pieces of transportation legislation that passed this year. I would start off by not getting right on Expressway Authority. It was a very good budget year, as Kathy indicated. There was between the almost, I think, the second lowest number of vetoes ever in Tallahassee by the governor. The transportation work program this year was at a record high, almost $10 billion. So there's a lot of money in Tallahassee for transportation projects specifically. I'm sure all of you read the news accounts of the passage of this legislation, but I wanted to go through highlights and see if you had any questions. As everyone knows, Senator Gardner and Senator Simmons have been trying for several years now to create a regional tolling authority here in Central Florida. They were finally successful this year. They passed Senate Bill 230 unanimously in the House and Senate. It is yet to go to the governor's desk for signature yet, but he has indicated publicly that he will sign it once it gets to his desk. To go over sort of the basics of the governance structure, it basically did three things. It changed the governance structure of OOCEA and renamed it the Central Florida Expressway Authority. So everywhere you've used OOCEA in the past, you now got to use CFX. That's sort of the new acronym for the tolling agency. It goes from just the Orlando-Orange County municipality jurisdiction to include Seminole and Lake and Osceola. And the board, which is currently 5 members, will go to 9 members. Of import to the city of Orlando is that now the mayor of Orlando sits as a member of the Central Florida Expressway Authority Board and will have a say in those projects. The second area that was included in the bill, which isn't outlined here, was a lot of ethical language that put into statute sort of a lot of the code of ethics that exists at the Expressway Authority now, such as you can't lobby the Expressway Authority after 2 years, you can't work for vendors and contractors. And then the final piece that was included in this legislation was a merger of the Osceola Expressway Authority projects that exist right now. There was a lot of conversation about that in Tallahassee. Senator Soto was very involved in that on behalf of Osceola County. They inevitably worked out the difference, and so it passed. Of interest to this, at least to me, and unique for legislation, is that this becomes effective once the governor signs it. So he gets it June 10th and decides to sign it that day. This law becomes effective on June 10th. So instantly, Mayor Dyer will be part of the new CFX board. The governor has 3 appointments he has to make, which he'll have to advertise, and then he'll make those appointments. But other than that, the county commissions make appointments, and so it'll start pretty rapidly once he signs that bill. Any questions about that? The other piece of transportation legislation I wanted to touch on, and then Alex will talk about the last two, was the regulation of limousine services. This became known as the Uber bill. I don't know if you've read anything about Uber. Uber is a transportation services application, an app basically, you use on your smartphone that enables you to call a black car service, like a limo service. What they were unsuccessful in Tampa and Hillsborough County and sort of being effective in allowing Uber to be used over there and preempting sort of the local regs over there. So they went to Tallahassee to try to preempt all the regs locally, statewide. We were very effective in stopping that this year. I do think it will come back. I think we'll see this for several years now. They seem to have a lot of lobbyists and are spending a lot of money to try to create this state preemption of all the local regs. I'd like to bring up now Alex Setzer from our office here, too, to talk about 2 other pieces of legislation.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Red light cameras. The good news of red light cameras is we were held harmless this year on any sort of repeal or modification. Both bills died in committee. However, aside from those two bills, you saw a lot of activity in several other cases where they looked to repeal either the red light camera system or to do some other sort of modification. So I would say the bad news is we're probably going to be having this same conversation again this time next year, as I don't think this is going to stop happening and will probably continuously happen. Again, much like the Uber bill, there's a lot of firepower on both sides, for and against. So I think we'll keep saying it, but we'll keep fighting the good fight. Any questions regarding red light cameras? And the DOT package. There's a lot that went into the DOT package. I think it's a few are worth highlighting from the city's perspective. The first is the Florida Transportation Commission has commissioned a study on parking meters along right-of-ways for state roads. And basically by August 31st, the city will have to inventory, I apologize, thank you. We'll have to inventory all parking meters along the right-of-way of the state roads and report both those existing devices or parking time devices, and additionally, we'll have to report any debt payment that is associated with those devices. If failure to report by August 31st will simply mean the removal of those actual devices. The intent of the commission is to look for a reason or a way to create revenue off of those parking meters. So clearly that's why they're inventorying and asking you to do that on their behalf. Also of note is there is going to be a moratorium on those devices between July of 2014 and July of 2015. So that's a fun one for us.
Say that again.
There's a moratorium on new devices between July 2014 and July 2015 on any parking devices that are located on the right-of-way of state roads. So that's a fun one. Additionally, and I think this is of note, local governments no longer have first right of refusal on sale of any DOT assets located within your borders. So they can still affirm you the first right of refusal, but you no longer statutorily have it. So something to put on your radar as well. And I think maybe another one, DOT can now fund 100% of all strategic airport projects based on whether they believe that they meet certain criteria, or up to 100%. And also additionally, there's now a prohibition on tourist-oriented signage on certain roads. Most of it is on urban areas or interchanges of freeways and expressways. So any questions regarding the DOT package?
What does that last one mean? Like advertising or giving directions?
Based on the way I read it, yes. It's signage, advertising, turn right for Universal, turn right for Disney's, my understanding. Any sort of tour-oriented signage.
Wow, okay.
So.
You got me on that one.
Sorry?
You can't say go right to Universal Studios?
My understanding is you can't have any sort of, and it's pretty clear, you cannot have any sort of signage on in those certain specified areas that is tourist-oriented development. Clearly, the rulemaking process will be coming, so I think we'll get a little more. But
so on I-4, like the exchange for Universal, they're going to take those signs down, telling people that that's where Universal is?
The way that it is written is that it prohibits it at state interchanges and freeways. Yeah, sure, you probably can. There you go. It is your language. There you go.
In the Rural Economic Development Program, in the READY program, they allowed the use of tourist-oriented signs for way out in the middle of nowhere. They got rid of that. There's a regulatory scheme for specific types of signage for specific projects out in the middle of nowhere. They wanted to prohibit those signs to go on like freeways. So in the particular example in Tallahassee, there's a resort called Stream Song Resort. It was done in one of the old phosphate pits out in the middle of nowhere in Fort Meade, southwest Polk County. They were trying to get tourist-oriented signs to get people to be able to find it, but they didn't want those signs up on like the Polk Parkway or on I-4. Does that make sense? It doesn't do what you're saying. It only has to do with that one particular regulatory scheme about those kinds of signs.
Okay.
Make sense? Yeah, it's not nearly as far-reaching. Who's next? Chris Carmody's up.
We shouldn't let those guys go up there. Can we stop?
There we go. Good afternoon. Chris Carmody with Gray Robinson. I don't think I'll be talking about any sign restrictions, economic development and taxation. First thing you see there, modeling and simulation. As many of you know, there's an ongoing concern that the federal government could put together another BRAC commission, base realignment and or closure, or an internal reorg from an admiral or general that decides they want to move. And out by UCF, we have a very vibrant modeling and simulation industry. And so To protect from any such BRAC and relocation, UCF has been working in partnership with those entities to come up with funding for a Partnership 4. And you'll see there, $8 million was appropriated this session, and it was approved this morning by the governor for the beginning stages of Partnership 4. That will put P1, 2, 3, and 4 on a close to competitive level with the other modeling and simulation bases across the country. And hopefully, if and when there's another BRAC, we'll be in better position as a result of that. Also, Rails to Trails, if you recall last session, now Senate President-designate Andy Gardner successfully got into the budget $50 million for the Cross Florida Connector. Unfortunately, the governor did not see the light of that project at the time and vetoed it, and he said it needs to go in the FDOT work plan. This year it was in the FDOT Road Building Fund, and this morning I can tell you he approved it, so that is now approved for this year. $15.5 million, the first phase of the funding, which will obviously have a significant impact here in Orange County and Orlando, as that trail will go coast to coast. So that's a positive thing. House Bill 5601, tax cut packages. If you recall, a lot of the headlines was in the tax cuts for the license tag fees. That was approximately $400 million. This was the other $100 million that for the $500 million tax cut. You can see quickly there that list. A few that I'd note. The hurricane preparedness sales tax holiday, that's the fourth bullet. That's going on right now, so hopefully no hurricanes, but go to your Home Depot or Lowe's if you'd like. The next couple of bullets are all permanent. Sales tax on child car seats and bicycle helmets, college meal plans, and medicinal pet food. So those are positive signs. Roughly $120 million in cuts through that. And then as well, there's House Bill 7023. Regarding economic development. Of note, Direct Space Florida consult with Visit Florida about tourism marketing for space tourism. That will have a net positive in our region here in Central Florida. And as well, the fourth bullet is establishes Florida Microfinance Program. That's loans of up to $50,000 apiece from DEO that can go to entrepreneurial businesses, including here in Central Florida, where we have a solid entrepreneurial base. So that will be unique opportunities for a lot of our local businesses. They can get up to $75,000 in funding, but $50,000 each for a loan, and those for up to a year with very favorable interest rates. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Robert Stewart to talk about the next couple of pieces of legislation.
Thanks, Chris, and Mayor, Commissioners, good afternoon. A few more bills to complete the Gray Robinson part of this report. House Bill 343 relates to the rental car surcharge. There was a bill filed this year by Representative Linda Stewart out of our local area that would have added to the rental car surcharge in a way that our region has talked about for years. I can tell you that bill did not go anywhere. The one rental car surcharge bill that did pass was effectively a cut to the rental car surcharge if you're using a car sharing service for a day or less. And what the target of that is downtown urban core living, folks who don't own a vehicle or they're on a college campus and don't own a vehicle and they need one for a portion of a day or up to one full day. Instead of paying a $2 rental car surcharge for that day, they'd pay a $1 rental car surcharge. Representative Nunez out of Miami, who sponsored that bill, wanted it to be even less, either cutting it all together or having it be something less than $1. They negotiated it to $1, and so that's what you'll see if you ever rent a car for less than a day and you rent it from somewhere other than an airport. House Bill 231. This is a bill that was a priority of the Orlando Magic and has an impact on the city. Effectively, if you roll the clock back to 2010, when we were awarded the 2012 All-Star Game, the legislature, in their infinite wisdom, added a sales tax rebate, a sales tax exemption for tickets to the All-Star Games. And that's something that the NBA required as part of their RFP for bidding on an All-Star Game. Go back forward a little bit to 2012 when we actually held the All-Star Weekend, and because of where some of the events were held or what they were called, there was some ambiguity about whether or not certain events were covered. And so in the abundance of caution, the Magic and the state charged the sales tax on certain tickets. The NBA wanted to see that corrected in order for our region, or really anywhere in Florida, us or Miami, to be able to host future All-Star Weekends. This legislation clarified that. It was a net neutral as far as the fiscal impact, but it was an important clarification of the law if we want to host future All-Star games and bring that economic impact back to our region. Senate Bill 7128, this is one I'll just touch on. It's a bill that didn't pass. It was the the entertainment industry financial incentive program. You'll recall from several years ago, the legislature invested heavily in film incentives. Last year, that money ran out. It was not replenished. And this year, there was new legislation put forward to try to update that program a bit, make it more relevant to the industry today. The legislation didn't pass, and ultimately neither did any increased funding. There was an article, I think, was that today's paper, ran an article about that program here locally and its impact. So just as we look forward towards next year, it's the type of legislative item that I think this region can get behind if we all work as one, and we can have the type of success that we've seen with soccer, with Sunrail, with the big things that our community has been able to do together, because that film credit can have such a big impact on Central Florida, given the assets that we have. Sales taxes on remote sales, none of the bills to require internet tax passed, but I will note that Amazon's new presence in Tampa now requires them to collect sales taxes on what they sell. That's a huge step forward. Really, Amazon was the elephant in the room when you talked about internet sales tax. So that's a positive move for the state of Florida that they now have a presence and are collecting. But none of the bills passed because politically, as you can imagine, in an election year, that smells like a tax increase, looks like a tax increase, walks like a tax increase. And so that's something that the legislature wasn't really interested in passing. And then lastly, and of course any questions that you've got, is this one yours? Oh, I'd be happy to pass this one on. Rebecca, do you want to talk about this one?
Yeah. Mayor, let me, if you'll allow me briefly, on the film tax incentive, is that likely to come back, Robert, in some way?
You mean the funding?
Yeah.
I can tell you that I think there's a desire in the incoming Senate President to see that renewed, and so I think the legislature next year will be a bit more focused on it than they were this year. There was some surprise, I think, in the industry that it didn't get done this year, and that no funding was renewed, and so there will just be, I think, heightened pressure next year to try to get it done. And certainly the cost-benefit analysis of the $50 million that was originally put there is tangible now. You can see it. It really did have an impact on the state and on our region. So I think yes, it'll certainly be back for conversation, and I think there's a good chance that we'll get some money next year in that.
Mayor, let me, if you'll allow me, just a point of personal privilege. The other night we were at dinner, Officer Kirkpatrick and I, and a woman came up to us, and we were sitting talking, and we were with Ping, of all guys from the Channel 6, and she made a point to say to both of us, go do something about that, because she's lives in Audubon Park, and now she's going to have to move to Atlanta because of the work that they're doing in Atlanta and the incentive, this particular incentive. And so I don't know if there's anything we can do as a council, but even if we can collect some of those stories to be able to share as personal stories to legislators, let them know that people are moving out of Florida and don't want to move out of Florida because they don't have any incentive for that type of stuff.
Both Valencia and UCF trained students, as you've seen in the paper. The Valencia person is filming in Louisiana. Our students go straight to Georgia. And we've had a preliminary meeting, and what we feel like, and you can help, but we need to rally the business community around this and have them take a leadership role. They're so used at the end of that bill, they wanted local match, because there's 2 counties in the state that do that. But if you know about filming or TV shows, they may feel in Seminole, they may go to the city, they may go to the county. That's too difficult. So what we're going to ask you, Mayor, and as the council, to get with the EDC, to get with the business community, and get this tax incentive restored. And Senator Gardner has already said, because I think he gets it, that it will come back, and we need to follow his leadership and work on it. But we talk about economic development, we do some things, and then to lose this industry in Florida is a big mistake.
Mayor and Commissioners, Rebecca Sutton. This particular bill, House Bill 1199, was proposed to sunset the Civic Facilities Authority. The Civic Facilities Authority was established a long time ago. Commissioner Stewart could probably give me the date. but I don't know it off the top of my head. But at any rate, we issued some bonds through the Civic Facilities Authority, and the Civic Facilities Authority was to be sunset once those bonds were completely redeemed. That happened about 3 or so years ago. And so this bill, it took us a while to get it through the process, the local delegation. For any number of reasons, the last couple of years it has not been convenient to take this as a local bill to the legislature, but we were able to do it this year, and it was passed. What this means then is the Civic Facilities Authority Board will be dissolved. The financial resources that remain within the Civic Facilities Authority Fund will be transferred to Orlando Venues. What is there is roughly about $2 billion and change, which will be transferred to the Orlando Venues Fund for use in reconditioning the upper deck of the Citrus Bowl. Part of the construction project on the Citrus Bowl includes this, and these funds will be used to allay the cost of the reconditioning of that upper bowl space. By the way, these bonds actually paid for the construction of the upper bowl.
Okay, great. Okay, good afternoon, Mayor Dyer and City Commissioners. Kyle Shepard, Assistant City Attorney, and I'll wrap up our presentation here. For the first time in a number of years, good news on the affordable housing front. As you know, each year taxes paid on real estate transaction has funded the local housing trust fund, and that trust fund funds both the SHIP and the sale affordable housing programs. Over the last 4 years, the legislature has swept that trust fund clean to fill holes in the general revenue fund, and so no monies have been available for SHIP and for sale. This year, money is available, $100 million for the SHIP program, and the sale program, $66.7 million. So good news there. Also, some relatively good news on the homelessness front. House Bill 979 was passed through the legislature. It is awaiting action by the governor. But it would appropriate $4 million to DCF for challenge grants that help support training and technical assistance to designated continuums of care at the local level. Earlier in the session, this bill proposed a recurring appropriation for this program, and unfortunately all we got was just a 1 year, just for fiscal year 2014-2015, $4 million. That is statewide. This next bill, let me draw your attention to this. Senate Bill 846 was an ethics bill this year, and it requires something of each of you. It requires that all elected municipal officials undertake each year 4 hours of ethics and sunshine law training. Okay? This goes into effect starting January 1st of 2015. There are approved training courses that that you have to take under this. They are approved by the Commission on Ethics. Between now and January 1st, 2015, the City Attorney's Office will work with each of you to identify programs that will meet that requirement. So next year, you all will have to start making sure you report that to the Commission on Ethics when you do your annual financial disclosures. Okay?
Yes, Commissioner Ortiz.
I'll ask the question if I may, and I'm sorry, jumping in the middle of this. Is this also applicable to the people in class?
No, they never is, Commissioner. They never clean their own house, Commissioner.
I'm willing to also political figures.
This particular bill applies only to municipal elected officials. By the way, this provision already applied to certain constitutional officers at the county level, and this was just an expansion to apply to municipal officers as well.
Is Senator Soto still around?
I think he
No.
I think he walked out.
I'm sure it was just an oversight, Commissioner. They meant to extend it to themselves.
Can we veto it?
This is still awaiting the action of the governor. As far as I say, the vetoes are occurring right now, so something could have happened recently, but this is awaiting governor's action. One other provision in here that may be interesting to you is, as you know, state law requires each of you and each member of a city or county advisory commission, such as planning board or the BZA or any other board, it requires you to vote on every action that comes before you, unless you have a conflict of interest, and in which case you are required to abstain yourself by disclosing the conflict and then filling out Form 8B, the Commission on Ethics Form 8B. What was always unclear was whether or not you were allowed to abstain in a quasi-judicial matter where you don't have an actual conflict of interest, but where for one reason or another you may have a lot of information about the quasi-judicial item, or you may be biased for some reason. As you know, whenever you adjudicate a quasi-judicial item, one of the things that we owe applicants is a neutral magistrate or a neutral decision maker, a group of decision makers that have not already made up their mind until they receive evidence on the record. Some commissioners over time have pointed out that because quasi-judicial items such as rezonings or whatever might be close to their own home or in their own neighborhood, they may have already predisposed themselves for or against a particular item. But they thought until this amendment that they were precluded from abstaining under that circumstance. So now, if you ever wonder whether you can abstain in a quasi-judicial setting where you don't have an actual conflict of interest, but where you don't think you can be a fair magistrate, now you're allowed to recuse yourself under those circumstances. Nicotine dispensing devices, Senate Bill 224 simply amends current tobacco laws to define nicotine dispensing devices to include e-cigarettes, and it prohibits the sale of those devices to minors. Makes it a second-degree misdemeanor to do so. Excuse me. Finally, the last bill, the Charlotte's Web bill, Senate Bill 1030, was adopted by the legislature, and the governor says that he intends to sign this law into this act into law. It creates the Compassionate Medical Cannabis Act of 2014. And what it does is it requires the Department of Health to establish a compassionate care registry. And that compassionate care registry would allow doctors to prescribe an oil that is produced through the marijuana plant. And this oil is a low THC or non-euphoric oil. It's a residue that can be used to treat epileptic seizures and other chronic ailments. This law will go into effect upon signature, but the Department of Health has to roll out that compassionate care registry by January 1st of 2015. Do not confuse this with Amendment Number 2, which is the proposed constitutional amendment that is on the ballot for this November that would allow a wider scope of medical marijuana uses. This is just the Charlotte's Web variety of the oil that is produced from the marijuana plant. Finally, since Senator Soto mentioned it earlier, one bill that did not pass again, but a very good bill, is the bill that would give neighborhood improvement districts the authority to borrow money to undertake capital improvements. As you know, we have a NID, the Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District, and a couple weeks ago a referendum approved the authority to levy a tax. The statute is unclear about whether neighborhood improvement districts on their own authority have the power to borrow money. A number of bills have been filed over the last few years that would have done that and also cleaned up some old archaic language within the Neighborhood Improvement Act. It again fell short, but what we're seeing each year is more and more members of the House and more members of the Senate that are familiar with what it promises to do. And as you heard from Senator Soto, it's something that is likely to come up again in future years, and we'll stand ready to support that if you wish. With that, Mayor and City Commissioners, the team is here to answer any questions that you might have about this year's legislative report.
Well, I would like to just say overall the team did an incredible job working together with support from Rebecca and Kyle back home and Kathy leading the process in Tallahassee, and I think this is one of the more successful years that we've had in Tallahassee. I didn't know we had the ethics training, but that wasn't our focus, so I'm sure somebody has an ethics training company that is going to benefit by all this ethics training that we'll be doing.
Exactly.
Notice that Kathy went first with the good news about the $30 million, too.
Right, and then sat down. Does anybody have any questions or comments? All right. Thank you, team. You can take a couple days off. Okay, that concludes the, no, it doesn't conclude. Commissioner Stewart, you're recognized.
Mayor, let me ask this council for a special privilege. I apologize, but I know we've had a history and a tradition of going down the mayor pro tems in a certain schedule, and I had not realized that the next commissioner to come up as pro tem 2 would be Tony Ortiz. And so to do it formally, I'd like to make a motion to reconsider the vote in such a way that we can put us back in the order that we have in terms of the current schedule.
Okay, Commissioner Stewart, having been on the prevailing side of that motion, is entitled to make a motion to reconsider the vote by which the pro tem 2 was selected. Is there a second for that?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Let's see. All in favor of the motion to reconsider indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, then we are back on for nominations for pro tem 2.
All right, Mayor, if you allow me, I would like to go ahead and nominate Commissioner Ortiz, get us back on schedule that we currently have as Mayor Pro Tem 2.
Okay. Motion
Second.
and a second. Are there further nominations? Hearing none, nominations will cease. All in favor of Commissioner Ortiz as pro tem 2 indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, okay. Commissioner Ortiz, are you still on the phone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're now the pro tem 2.
Well, Commissioner Torres, appreciate the privilege.
Okay. All right, that concludes the official business of the Orlando City Council for today.